What's up everyone, Zelonies here, back again with another video, and today we're going to be going over this light novel that I just finished. It is Naruto, Itachi's Story, Daylight, Part 1. I haven't read Part 2 yet, but I plan to do it after this video. I'm going to be going over what happened in this book and what I think, so with introduction out the way, let's begin. At 4 years old, Itachi is taken to a battlefield with his father, and this battlefield has a lot of dead bodies. The book describes it like there's bodies piled on top of bodies. And Itachi, he's looking at this and he's like, damn, this is fucked up. And his father's just standing there and he's like, hey, Itachi, do you know why I brought you here? And Itachi knew why. He was like, yes, father. You brought me here because you wanted to show me that this is what life is like as a ninja. And if I'm going to be a ninja, this is what my day-to-day life is going to be like. It's going to be filled with violence, death, and despair. I'm gonna watch my comrades die and I'm gonna have to kill people. And his father's like, yes, that is exactly what's going to happen. And Fugaku, Itachi's dad by the way, he tells Itachi like, hey, it's okay to cry. And remember, Itachi is only 4 years old when he's witnessing this, and Itachi's like, no, I'm not gonna cry. But he kinda does end up crying, but he tries to conceal it. And it's raining right now, so the rain really helps him cry without his father knowing. This event would go on to shape Itachi into the person he is, because after witnessing this, Itachi's like, hey, I don't want to live in this world. I don't want to live in a world where there's constant killing and despair. So my goal is to become a great ninja so I can eventually put an end to all the fighting permanently. So at 4 years old, Itachi already knew what he wanted. He knew what his goal was. And later on, Itachi eavesdrops on his father because his father has these meetings with other Uchiha frequently. And as Itachi is eavesdropping, Fugaku's subordinates are expressing their dissatisfaction with Minato becoming the 4th Hokage. Because they're like, hey, Fugaku, you have the skills it takes to become Hokage. Why weren't you even considered? The only ones considered was Minato and Orochimaru. And Orochimaru probably deserves it more than Minato. And Fugaku, he doesn't really say much, but he catches on to Itachi eavesdropping. So he tells his subordinates to quiet down, and Itachi's like, damn, I've been found out. When Itachi turns 5, Sasuke is born, and Itachi immediately feels like this brotherly love with Sasuke. He's like, hey, this guy is so fragile, he's so tiny, and I want to do everything I can to protect him. So Itachi, we see that he's pretty much a big old sweetheart. And when Itachi is not playing with Sasuke, he's pretty much training or reading books or something like that to help further his skills as a ninja. So one day, Itachi is training by throwing kunai at these targets. And it's not easy targets. It's not like shooting a soda can that's right in front of you. Itachi has to like jump in the air and then twirl around and throw the kunai at different times and at different angles and stuff like that. It seems really complicated. But he manages to hit all of them, and then somebody comes out and is like, ah, you're great. I expect no less from you, Itachi. And Itachi's like, hey, who are you? And this person turns out they're Shisui, and he's like, hey, I'm a Genin. And if you don't know, Genin are the lowest rank of a ninja. And Shisui's like, everybody knows of you because everyone knows of Fugaku, and you are Fugaku's son. Then Shisui does the exact same thing Itachi does. He lunges into the air, dances or whatever, twirls around, and then throws the kunai. And he hits the targets, but he's more accurate than Itachi, so Shisui, he's got some skill. The two of them become friends, and they would train together a lot. And after all of this, the event happens, you know, the Ninetales attack, the event that started the whole series. So when the Ninetales attacks, Fugaku and his men, they're getting ready to fight the Ninetales because the only one who can really subdue the Ninetales is the Uchiha because they have the Sharingan and they can control the Ninetales with the Sharingan. And as they're getting ready to attack, Fugaku is informed that they are not to engage the Ninetales. They are told instead to reinforce the Leaf Village's defenses. And nobody in the Uchiha likes this. They're like, oh man, that sucks. Why do we have to do that? Let's just fight the Ninetales. But they begrudgingly do it. And while at home, Itachi is carrying Sasuke and he's like, oh man, something's going on. And he's trying to protect Sasuke as best he can. His mother then comes to their aid, and then this right here is the first example of we see how truly talented Itachi is. So as they reunite, a boulder comes down, so it's going to crush all of them. And before Itachi's mom can react, Itachi throws Sasuke at his mom. He yeets Sasuke. And then after he yeets Sasuke, Itachi jumps into the air, and then he summons chakra in his hand, and then he punches the boulder. He punches it and he destroys the boulder. He didn't split it in half or in fours or anything like that. He shattered the boulder and reduced it to nothing more than mere pebbles. Itachi, 5 years old. This 5 years old boy who hasn't even started the ninja academy yet, he's able to react faster than his mom. And his mom is a Jonin, the highest level of ninja rank you can attain. So it's pretty insane that this 5-year-old boy is able to react faster than a Jonin. That's pretty much all of the information we get about the Nine-Tails attack, but later on, we see Danzo and Hiruzen. They're talking and Danzo's like, hey, we got to gather all of the Uchiha and then we got to push them to the outskirts of the village. And at first, Hiruzen opposes this, but Danzo's like, hey, no. Only an Uchiha could have controlled the Nine-Tails, and it's no secret that the Uchiha are dissatisfied with how they are being treated in the Leaf Village. I have spies everywhere, and I can confirm that they are indeed upset. So let's gather them all up, put them on the outskirts of the village, so we can monitor them more closely. As much as Hiruzen doesn't like this decision, he agrees. So they're all moved to the outskirts of the village. And later on, at 6 years old, Itachi finally joins the academy, but he's not thrilled about it. He sees it as nothing more than a stepping stone. But it's clear that Itachi is way more skilled than everyone else around him. They have this target practice test where they have to run around the campus and they have to find the dummies and hit them with their kunai. And usually it takes about the average student about 5 minutes to complete the test. And Itachi does it in 30 seconds, and while everyone else is like, fuck man, this kid is amazing, Itachi's like, damn, I could have shaved off 5 seconds if I did this instead of that. He also gets a 100% on his written test, and his teacher is hyping him up and he's like, hey, show that to your parents, they're gonna be really proud. But Itachi, he's not interested in any of that. He's not interested in the fact that he got 30 seconds on his test or 100% or anything, because to him, this is all nothing. He's not getting the proper training he would like. And his father and mother are told about how much of a genius Itachi is, and his mother's really proud, and so is Fugaku, but Fugaku's more like, Itachi, he should take things slow. He's trying to rush too early to become a ninja. He needs to slow down and find some friends of his own age. And one day, Itachi meets this girl named Izuma. She's also an Uchiha, but Itachi, he doesn't really pay much attention to her at first. He's more concerned with training with Shisui, so he leaves and he goes trains with them. And what they do is they spend 4 hours running at top speed. And after they're done, Itachi's like, man, I can't progress any further. And Itachi doesn't like that because, like I said, he really wants to become a ninja as fast as he can. So 6 months go by, and everybody knows who Itachi is at this point because of how skilled he is. His teachers would give him special assignments for homework, but Itachi would complete them no problem. So eventually, they decided that they were going to make Itachi a genin. And pretty much what they did is they gave him a special assignment. I don't know what, they never really elaborated, but if he could complete it, then he would become a genin. And to no surprise, he completes it. So Itachi then, he's going to graduate with the senior class. So one day, as Itachi is leaving school, he is confronted by this kid named Tenma and 2 of his friends. Pretty much, they want Itachi to apologize because they're like, hey, someone from the Uchiha summoned the Nine-Tails, and we had family members who died, so you have to apologize. And Itachi, he's like, no, I'm not going to apologize because I didn't do it, and I know nobody in the Uchiha clan did it. And this makes Tenma and the boys angry. And what makes them even angrier is how calm and stoic Itachi is acting. So they attack Itachi, and Itachi uses this opportunity to show off his new substitution jutsu. Because most people, when they use the substitution jutsu, they use a log. But unlike them, Itachi uses crows that scatter out in all directions. And pretty much why he does that is because crows, they're going to scatter out and they move around. They're actual living creatures, and that's going to disorientate someone more than someone who just sees a log appear. And Itachi, he could have fought the boys if he wanted to, but Itachi's a real passive person, and he fears that if he did fight them, he wouldn't know how to hold back and he'd accidentally kill them. But even after it's clear that Itachi is much more skilled than them, the boys still press Itachi and want him to apologize. Then Izuma appears and she's like, hey, no, he's not going to apologize, and I'm not going to apologize either, because I'm a new Uchiha as well. Just leave us alone. And the boys, they're getting ready to press Izuma as well, but then they see that she has her Sharingan and they're like, oh shit, that's the Sharingan. Alright, let's get out of here. We're not gonna mess with her. But Izuma, she's not really that great with her Sharingan, so she passes out afterwards. So Itachi takes her to a nursery. When she awakes, Itachi asks her, hey, how did you awaken your Sharingan? And she tells him, well, I awakened it when my dad died during the Ninetales attack. And Itachi's asking how can he awaken it, but Izuma's like, to tell you the truth, I don't really know. And Itachi's like, damn, well, that's great. That's pretty much all the information we get from them. And then later on, Itachi goes on to graduate. And then he comes across Danzo. So Danzo and him have this one-on-one conversation where Danzo asks him, what would Itachi do if he was the leader of a ship and there was a dying man of an illness, and if this man stays on the ship, he will spread his illness and kill everyone? And Itachi's like, well, then we'll have to kill the guy with the illness because he's already gonna die. There's no point in letting everyone else die. Danzo, he just smiles and then walks away. So Itachi, he is assigned a squad. It's him, his Chuunin, Tenma, and this girl named Shinko. They don't really get along. Tenma's always trying to pick fights with Itachi and Shinko, and the way the book describes it, their sensei, Yuki, he kind of sounds like a cuck. Like he's too afraid to be firm and voice his opinion. But after they all greet each other, they leave, and then Itachi and Izuma, as they're walking home, Izuma's talking about how she knows that something is brewing with the adults because you know how they have their meetings and stuff. She's like, something is going on. I don't know what, but I don't like it. And Itachi, he's like, yeah, same here. So one day when Itachi's team, they go on a mission to kill a spy. And this spy almost kills Tenma, but Itachi saves him and kills the spy. And after their mission is over, Shinko, she's like, hey, Tenma, you should thank Itachi. He just saved your life. And Tenma, he's still salty. He's like, no, I'm not going to thank him. Fuck you, Itachi. But Itachi, he's just like, hey, it's whatever. They complete the mission, and then they have another mission. This mission is different. It's a lot more important, kind of. They go on a mission to protect the daimyo of the Land of Fire because he's coming to visit the Leaf Village. So it's their job to escort him from wherever he is to the Leaf Village. But pretty much, Itachi's team, they don't really have a purpose being there. They're just kind of decorations. The book and the characters even acknowledge this because the daimyo is accompanied by 12 personal guards that are ninja, and there's also going to be 4 Anbu Black Ops who are going to be watching from the shadows. And the only reason they're going to personally be protecting the daimyo is because their team had the best grades or something like that of all the other teams. And to be honest, it's because of Itachi. They even say this too. They're like, the reason why our team has such good grades is because of Itachi. Not Tenma, not Shinko, not even their sensei Yuki. It's because of Itachi. So as they go on their mission, as they're protecting the daimyo, Tobi, aka Obito, appears, and he's just acting like a goofball. And they're like, hey, how did you get here? This road is closed. And then Tobi, he's just like, oh, well, whatever, fuck you. And then he just uses his Sharingan and puts them all in genjutsu. And the only ones who didn't fall for his genjutsu was Itachi and, surprisingly, Tenma. Tenma, remember this guy? He was able to resist it. Not even his Jonin sensei Yuki was able to. So I'm like, okay, Tenma, does he have some skill? But he's like, hey, genjutsu is my specialty. But even if it is your specialty, this is Obito. Come on now, really? You're telling me this kid was able to resist his Sharingan? But whatever. Tenma, he rushes Obito, and Itachi, he's telling him not to do that. They need to further analyze the situation. But as he rushes Obito, he just impales the dude with his hand, and it's pretty graphic. The book describes as Tenma's body twitching, like he's having these seizures, as Obito just keeps his impaled hand there. And it's really, really disturbing personally, because I've seen the scene in the anime, and Obito, he just slashes him with his sword. But here, he's just going full metal mode. So Tenma, he dies. Whatever, I never really cared for Tenma anyways. But Obito, he's like, hey, Itachi, I will spare you if you let me kill the daimyo. If you let me kill him, I'll spare you. And Itachi, he's like, no, I'm a ninja. And Itachi, he's afraid, but he recognizes that this is his job. He has to do what he has to do. So Obito's like, alright, fine, whatever, I'm gonna kill you too. And as Obito raises his hand to kill Itachi, he senses Kakashi near. So he's like, damn, Kakashi, he's in the Anbu. Well, whatever. Sorry, kid. guess you get to live. So Obito flees and Itachi is saved by Kakashi. And Itachi, he never personally witnessed his own teammates die until now. So he was so shook that even after he was saved, he had like no desire to eat or anything like that. And even when he was wrapped in a warm blanket, he was still shaking, he was quivering. This event was just so shocking to Itachi that he eventually awakened his Sharingan, and he's like, oh, okay, next time I meet you, I'm not gonna lose. And I'm like, oh, okay, Itachi, I mean, alright, sure. And this event just wasn't like mind-fucking to just Itachi. Shinko, she stops being a ninja because she was scarred from this event, and they get new team members. Itachi is 9 years old and both of his new team members are 13. They just graduated from the academy and they go on a low D rank missions, and Itachi uses this as an opportunity to help further his Sharingan. But even then he's like, hey, these missions, they're not going to help me shine with my Sharingan. I need something to push me even further. But there's one detail that I think is important. The book goes out of their way to talk about this guy on his team named Yoji. They just say that he's a quiet kid. That's pretty much it, but remember him. He's not that important, but he does bring up some curiosity later. Anyways, Itachi, he spars with Shisui, and they have this all-out fight, but they're not allowed to use Sharingan because it drains too much chakra. Itachi ends up winning the fight, but they've been sparring more than once, and the majority of the wins have gone to Shisui. So, you know, they're both pretty talented. There's two main things they discuss here. One is about Izuma and how Itachi likes her, and Itachi's like, whatever man, sure. And the second is Itachi becoming a Chuunin. Shisui says to him, hey, why haven't you been given permission yet to become a Chuunin? And Itachi's like, well, my sensei, Yuki, hasn't given permission yet for me to apply. And Shisui, he's like, hey, maybe he's jealous that you're a better ninja than him. And Itachi's like, no, don't be ridiculous. And it's pretty funny because Danzo and Hiruzen have this same talk. Danzo is accusing Yuki of being jealous, and Hiruzen's like, I don't think so. But Danzo's like, no, he is jealous. Yuki is known for sending Genin more talented than him back to the academy. The only reason he hasn't done it with Itachi is because of Itachi's fame. And not only that, Danzo goes out of his way to say that Yuki is only a below average Jonin. So they decide that they're going to let Itachi take the Chuunin exam alone. And it's never expanded upon. Is Yuki jealous of Itachi? I don't know. The book never elaborates, but I would assume that Yuki is jealous because he does seem like a cuck, so maybe he is jealous. Anyways, Itachi takes the Chuunin exam, and the first exam he cinches it no problem. He knows that this exam was set up to incentivize you to cheat, but Itachi has no need to cheat because he spends a lot of time reading books. He knows a lot. He knows a lot about the ninja, he knows a lot about the Sage of Six Paths, the Tailed Beast, Jinchuriki. He knows about all that stuff, so he has no problem and there's no need for him to cheat. So after he finishes, he quietly waits for everyone else to finish. He uses this opportunity to watch how everyone else is cheating to see what kind of abilities they may have, just in case he has to fight them. But after the first exam is over, Itachi is sent to the Forest of Death. And remember, Itachi is competing alone, so whoever he comes across is probably going to be a 3-on-1. So Itachi's plan is to go to the tower, because if he goes to the tower, he may have a higher chance of finding someone there. And he does. Itachi has a Heaven Scroll, and his goal is to attain also an Earth Scroll and return to the tower with both of them. So as Itachi faces his opponents, he uses his crow substitution jutsu to discombobulate them, and one of them begins to weave hand signs to perform a jutsu. And as they're halfway through weaving the hand signs, Itachi already completed his, so he performs a gigantic fireball jutsu, and this just makes the kids shit their pants. Itachi, he could have killed them, but he's not trying to kill them, he's just trying to scare them. So they're on the floor begging for mercy, and Itachi, he's like, hey, give me your Earth Scroll and we're all good. So they're like, okay, here you go. And Itachi's like, hey, you know what? I didn't even go all out against you guys. I didn't use my trump card. And they're like, well, what's your trump card? And he's like, Sharingan. He activates his Sharingan, and that makes them shit their pants even further. So that just completely breaks their spirit, because that's what Itachi wants. He wants to break their spirits so that they no longer want to be ninja anymore and they give up. Because to Itachi, ninja are nothing more than tools that people use to help create violence. So the less ninja there are in the world, the less violence there will be. He could have killed them, but that's not Itachi's thing. He doesn't like to kill, he just wants to make them quit. And before he leaves, he makes sure to knock them out just to be sure that they won't attack him as he leaves. and Itachi reaches the tower and he sets a new record which won't be broken until Gaara. So Danzo, he's monitoring Itachi, he's watching him closely and seeing how he performs, and he's having like a major hard-on when he sees just how good Itachi's doing in the Chuunin exam. And one of the Anbu who is with Danzo tells him that his opponent in the first round has conceded, so Itachi moves on to round 2 in the third exam. Danzo, he's like, man, it really sucks that Itachi's an Uchiha, but I'm glad to have him on my side because he's the type of person who's just too good to pass up on. They then begin to discuss Itachi's next opponent in the round 2 is going to be someone named Nemui. I guess it means sleepy or something like that. And Danzo's like, well, Itachi, he's going to blow this dude out the water. And I should also mention that the reason why Itachi is taking this exam is because Danzo wants him to. Hiruzen was just going to make him a Chuunin on the spot, but Danzo insists that Itachi takes the exam because the exam is really nothing more than flexing your military might. And if other nations see Itachi, they're going to be like, oh fuck, we shouldn't mess with the Leaf Village. So Itachi, he begins his fight with Nemui, and Nemui, he has this style of fighting where he falls asleep and it brings out his full power or something like that. That's what Itachi speculates, because as he's fighting him, Itachi's trying to gather this information about Nemui. And Itachi comes to the conclusion that Nemui is a coward, that's why he's falling asleep. And Itachi, he wants to hit him with his Sharingan to put him out, but he can't do it because Nemui has his eyes closed. And as he's watching them fight, he notices that Nemui ever so slightly and briefly opens his eyelids just a little. So Itachi, he capitalizes on this moment, and when he catches Nemui off guard, he hits him with the Sharingan. So the next time Nemui closes his eyes, he gets this image of Itachi getting behind him and slitting his throat. This shocks Nemui and forces him to wake up. So when he opens his eyes, Itachi hits him again with his Sharingan. So when he closes his eyes again, he gets another brutal image of Itachi murdering him. And this goes on for a while. He just keeps doing this over and over again, and every time Nemui's having a harder and harder time falling back asleep, until eventually Nemui just breaks down and he has a mental crisis. He's begging Itachi to stop, he doesn't want to die, so the proctor calls the fight and Itachi wins. And as Itachi is leaving the stadium, he meets Danzo, but unfortunately we don't get to hear what they talk about. It cuts to the next scene. Back at the Uchiha compound, Fugaku and his subordinates are celebrating with Itachi of his promotion to Chuunin, and one of them mentions how now Itachi can join the military police force of the Leaf Village because the police force is run by the Uchiha, and the head of the police force is Fugaku, so it makes sense that his own son would join. But Fugaku, he protests. He's like, no, Itachi, he will not join the police force. He will join the Anbu. And at first, everyone is confused, but Fugaku begins to explain that Itachi will join the Anbu because the Anbu spy on the Uchiha. That is no secret. So Itachi, he will be our mole from within. He'll be inside the Anbu and he'll spy on them and report back to us and see what's going on. And everyone, they're like, oh, okay, that's a really good plan. But Itachi, he's sitting in the corner and he's like, hey, we're all comrades. Why can't we all just get along? And when Itachi says this, he can feel the bloodlust in the air. The Uchiha, they don't like what Itachi is saying, but that doesn't deter Itachi from saying what he has to say. Pretty much Itachi is like, hey, this is going to continue the cycle of hatred and revenge. One of them is going to kill one of us, then we're going to kill one of them, then they're going to want revenge, and it's just going to be a cycle of back and forth. Why not just put an end to it all? And Yashiro, one of Fugaku's subordinates, he tells Itachi to apologize. He's like, hey, you may be a Chuunin now, but you're still just a kid. You don't understand the discrimination that we face on a day-to-day basis. And Itachi, he's like, well, yes, I do know what you're talking about. I'm an Uchiha as well. I face discrimination. And Itachi is like, I'm looking at things from an objective perspective. You're looking at things from only one perspective, based off of emotion. And Yashiro, he gets even more enraged, and Fugaku steps in and he tells Itachi to apologize. Itachi doesn't want to, but he does, and Fugaku, he can sense that Itachi, it really pains Itachi to apologize, but Fugaku doesn't say anything. We go to a new scene where Itachi, he meets one of his former teammates and she congratulates him for becoming a Chuunin. And Itachi, he's like, hey, are you still working with Yoji? And she's like, no, not anymore. Yoji, he got transferred about the same time you began the exams. And he's like, what? What happened to Yoji? Where'd he go? And she's like, I don't know. And then Itachi, he's kind of puzzled. He's like, I don't remember anything special about Yoji. He was quiet and he never did anything out of the ordinary. And then he is drawn to the conclusion that Yoji must have been transferred to the Anbu. Why? I don't know really. I mean, Yoji, the book says that he was just a genin fresh out of the academy, so why would he become an Anbu? I don't know. Hopefully I'll find out in the next book. We're then sent to a new scene where Hiruzen and Danzo, they're hyping up Itachi. They're like, hey, Itachi, he's a pretty good Chuunin. He leads his missions well. He's a good team leader. It's time he joins the Anbu. And Danzo, he's like, hey, Hiruzen, let me handle this. Let me see if he's ready first. And Hiruzen's like, okay, fine. But before they do, Itachi, he is told to take a week off. So no missions and no training. So what does he do in his free time? Well, he spends time with Sasuke. And on one occasion right now, he goes to a tea shop with Izuma. And there they meet Shinko, you know, the girl who quit when Tenma died. And she congratulates Itachi for becoming a Chuunin. And she also tells Itachi, hey, you know why I quit? It was horrifying that Tenma died. That was awful. But what really made me quit was you, Itachi. You were such a great ninja that it made me realize my own limitations. I was like, man, I'm shit compared to Itachi. So after that, the next day, she went in and she resigned. And I love to imagine that this gave Itachi an inflated ego momentarily, because Itachi, he is actually a little happy about that. He doesn't really express it, but he's happy that he made her quit. Because remember, Itachi, he doesn't want ninja to exist anymore. And the fact that he made a ninja quit shows him that he's on the right path. So Shinko, she's their waitress. So she leaves to go give them tea. And like I said, I think Itachi momentarily had an inflated ego because he just asks Izuma why she wants to become a ninja. And Itachi even says like, hey, being a ninja is not as great as you think. It's kind of shit, really. There's a lot of death and despair. And she's like, well, I want to be a ninja because my dad was. And Itachi's like, really? Is that really the reason? And then she feels a little pressed and she's like, well, like she stutters. And then she kind of implies that she wants to be a ninja because Itachi is, because she likes him. Something like that. She then begins to cry a little, so she leaves. And Itachi, he doesn't like pursue her or anything. He just like stands there and watches as she leaves. It's kind of weird that Itachi doesn't say anything or do anything, but whatever. Okay, Itachi, you're a really stoic and expressionless dude, so I'll give you a pass. And this is the funniest scene in the book to me. This is my favorite scene. After Izuma leaves, Shinko appears behind Itachi and she's like, you made your girl cry. And then Itachi, he's like, oh, you were able to conceal your aura pretty well. You should consider becoming a ninja again. And then Shinko, she's like, nope, no thanks. I just find it funny because, like I said, I can only imagine Itachi was having an inflated ego and, you know, he's kind of low-key bragging. I thought that was pretty funny. So after a week goes by, Danzo and Itachi meet up and Danzo gives him a mission. His mission is to assassinate this guy named Kohinato Mukai. Danzo tells Itachi that this guy is a Jonin from the Hidden Leaf village, but he is actually a spy from the Hidden Mist village. So now Itachi has to kill this person, and Danzo will allow Itachi to bring one person with him. So Itachi decides he wants to ask Shisui for help, because Shisui is his best friend and he's the person he trusts the most. Afterwards, Itachi asks Shisui what does he know about Mukai, and Shisui tells him that Mukai is a distant member of the Hyuga clan, and he uses Gentle Fist. So fighting him fist to fist isn't a smart idea. The two of them then begin to talk about the Uchiha clan and how most of them are ignorant. They only look at things and criticize things from inside their shell, so this makes them close-minded. But Itachi and Shisui are different. They're able to see the bigger picture, and then they say that they will change the Uchiha clan in their own way. Itachi will become an Anbu, and Shisui will become a Jonin. This will allow them to have greater connections and talk to more authoritative figures, so then they can help out the Uchiha clan once they gain their reputations. Shisui then says that he believes Itachi will become a Hokage, and Itachi is flattered because that actually is his goal, but he's never told a single soul, not even Shisui, so he's surprised his friend said that, but he's happy anyways. Afterwards, Itachi and Mukai, they go on a mission together with two other Chuunin. The book says that Danzo has connections, so he was able to hook them up and work together, and they're on a mission to spy on Hidden Sand and Mist Ninja because it turns out those two villages are trying to form an alliance, and if they form an alliance, well then let's just say it's not going to be good for the Leaf Village. So Itachi, Mukai, and the other Chuunin go on their mission, and while they're spying on the other villages, one of the Chuunin gets caught in a booby trap. So the Leaf Ninja now have to flee from the pursuing Sand Ninja, and once the Leaf Ninja reach the border of the Sand Village's territory, then Mukai, he starts to smoke and drink some alcohol, and I'm assuming that he does this to loosen up because that's what the book kind of implies. And then he tells everyone to stand back while he activates Byakugan in one of his eyes and proceeds to body all 20 ninja. This guy is no pushover, so Itachi's gonna have to be a lot more careful fighting him than the other people he's fought in the past. So after that, we get the final scene in this book where Itachi, Shisui, and the rest of the Uchiha clan, they're having another meeting, and it appears that the Uchiha are getting ready to plan a coup. They're planning to forcefully take over the Leaf Village, and Itachi and Shisui, they don't like where this is going, but they don't say anything, they just remain silent. So that's the end of the book. I enjoyed this book, it was pretty good. If you want to read it yourself, you can check it out. It's on Amazon. I got it for like $5-10, it's not that expensive. And if you like this video, then hey, consider like, sharing, and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Anyways, catch you in the next one when I read part 2 and do a review of it. Later.